Hi, welcome back to another design tutorial in Adobe XD, and today we'll be designing these cool button interaction animations all inside Adobe XD, and these look pretty cool. These won't take very long to create as well, and at the end of the video I will also show you some of these buttons I've created in CSS on CodePen, and I have the code ready, and I have even more buttons in my library of code as well, so you can go ahead and check that out at the end of the video. I will be linking the XD file down in the description for this entire experiment, so go ahead and download that as well. So without further ado, let's just get started. Okay, so first of all we will create a basic artboard. It can be of any dimension, it doesn't have to be too big or too small. This much is, I feel, enough. So for this, what we will do is first let's create the ripple button that we created before. We'll take a basic rectangle, we'll draw a rectangle here, and we'll name it button 1 right here in the artboard. And we will basically give it a border radius of 100 pixels, maybe 200 because this is quite big here. The more you give, the more rounded it'll look, and we need a rounded border. And for the border, I will say 20 pixels. Yeah, that is fine. And I will change the border from the gray to this sort of a blue color. Perfect. Now what we will do is we will make really small circles, just like this, and we will give this the same color as the border. So I'll just use a color picker to choose the border color, and I will just hold Option and copy these again and again. Okay, so now that we have all these circles up and ready, first of all let's just lock this and let's select all these circles and put them at the back of this button. And when you show that it's at the back of the button, make sure you unlock this button and you give it a fill of white. So you can't really see anything now. There are no circles visible, and that was the button. Now let's just give this button a text. Let's just say click, or anything you want, whatever text you want can come here. And for the font, I'm just using a basic Cerebri Sans, which is a premium font, by the way, but I've bought it. And I'll just place it in the middle somewhere, and that's perfect. I'll just give this the same color as the border. That is perfect. Now I will what I'll do is duplicate this button. Select the button and say Command D to duplicate the button, and as you can see, button 1 has been duplicated twice. And one button, I'll just give it name as mask, because we will have to mask all the ripple effects. So we will now create these circles. Make sure they're not too small. Yeah, that much is fine. And we will give it the fill, we will give it the same as this blue color. And we will place 3 of these across the button. That is perfect. And we will select all of these, and now we will select this mask layer as well. So remember, select mask and all these 3 circles and say Command Shift M to mask it. So now you can see this is a mask group 2. Let's just call it a mask. That's perfect. And now what we will do is double click on these circles and bring the opacity down to 0. Perfect. Now we will create hotspots. I'm calling these hotspots because when you click on a certain area, the certain area kind of ripples. So I will bring this square. I'll create 3 rectangles. I'll make sure that these are wide enough and they cover the entire button. So wherever you click on these, the ripple effect will take place. Perfect. Let's just place it in the center. And what I will do is I'll bring the opacity down to 0, so you can't really see these hotspots when you're actually working with them. And that is about it. Now in the next step, what I'll do is I'll double click on this artboard and say Command D. As you can see, I have a duplicate artboard, and here what I will do is on the first artboard I will make sure if I click on this left rectangle or left hotspot, the ripple effect takes place from the left. So I will select the mask, double click, and I can see all these circles. I will select this leftmost circle here, and I will bring the opacity I'll make the opacity to about 25%, and I will just scale this circle up real big, yeah, so that it covers the entire area, and make sure this is at the center of the button as well. Perfect. Now you have that ripple effect, and the next step will be to obviously bring all the little pixels or the circles around from behind. So we will select all of these ellipses which are behind this. Make sure you select all of them. And since we are clicking on the left, we want the ripple to take place towards the right. So we will just expand these to the right, and they'll just spread out like this. And you can spread out as much as you want. You can just manually pick up some and just spread these out if you want, whatever is okay for you. And this seems quite perfect right now. And make sure all of these ellipses are opacity 0. So I'll just bring down the opacity so that it actually spreads out. And to prototype this, what I'll do is I'll click on this left block, the left hotspot, and bring the arrow here, tap, auto animate, ease in out 0.6 seconds, we'll bring it to 0.4 seconds, and that should be pretty fine. And the next artboard, we will just click on this arrow, just like that, and we will bring it back, but this time we will transition, time trigger, and a 0-second delay, and ease in out 0.2 seconds. So it comes back to the original state. So if I click on the left portion, you can see how it kind of ripples and it sends all these circles just flying out. You can make this a little more perfect, you can work on this longer, and each hotspot will trigger one of these ripples. So the center hotspot will trigger the center circle, and that is how you will make the hotspots prototype. I won't be showing you the entire tutorial. I have another tutorial which works with these hotspots, and I will be linking that tutorial down in the description so you know how to create this effect. And I will be moving on to the next button now. The next button is quite cute, so as to say. If I go back to the original prototype, I can see when I click, it kind of gives this cartoonish impact. And this seems pretty nice. You can use this if your theme is cartoonish or old school. Yellow, yellow, dirty fellow. I'm just joking. I will again say click here, and I'll make this black. Fits the yellow much better here, and that is perfect. And now what I want to do is I want to create a basic rectangle, a small rectangle right here, and I want to give the fill as white and border as completely black, and I'll give the size of the border as 10, or you can give this 20 if you want it much thicker. That's perfect. I'll double click on this rectangle, and I'll see these you see these anchor points. Bring one of these anchor points here and the other here, so they kind of join just like this. And now you can rotate this and freely move this around. You can make this larger or smaller based on what you think your website would want. And I will hold Option, and I'll just duplicate this right here. What I will do is I'll select all of these and I'll group these, put them into one group, and I'll say exclamation 1. Just some random names I'm picking, that's fine. And here again we will need a hotspot. So what I'll do is I'll make a rectangle over here, just like that, and that will act as our left hotspot. And I'll just make this opacity 0 again. Perfect. And I will select this outer group of these exclamation bars and make these much smaller, just like that. That much is enough, and place it here on the side. And I'll bring the opacity down to 0 again here, and that is perfect. In the next artboard, what I'll do, I'll just copy this entire thing for the next artboard. Or what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this artboard down here. Let me select this. Come on. Okay. Yeah. So I'll duplicate it down here, and I will, in the next artboard, what I'll do is I will select the exclamation one from here, from the layers panel, and I'll make sure the opacity is 100% now. And I will just expand this, scale this up and put it right here. You can make it bigger if you want to leave a bigger impact, so as to say. And that seems right about perfect. And now comes the prototype for this button. On this left rectangle 21, this is the left hotspot for this button. I will click and say drag it here. And on tap, I want it to auto animate. Ease in out, I'll switch it to snap because I want this animation to be snappy, and 0.4 seconds is fine. And just like we did before, I'll just select the entire artboard and bring this arrow right back. Say trigger time 0 seconds, and here I'll say transition, dissolve, snap 0.2 second. That is perfect. Let's try and run this now. That's perfect. Seems as if I'm leaving an impact on the button, and you can do this for the entire button as well. The more the hotspots, more the exclamation marks will follow. Now let's try the third button, which kind of looks like an atom, right? I'm not much of a scientist, but I know what an atom is. It kind of looks like a fun little atom. It's just a random button that I've created. So let's get started with this. I'll create a basic circle, which will be a gray circle. Fill must be gray, light gray will do. And I'll create a question mark or anything. I'm just creating a random button here. You can replace it with anything you want. I'll just give this a dark gray kind of color. Perfect. Okay, now that I've placed it right there, the magic begins with the next artboard. So I'll just hold this artboard and duplicate it right here. Right about there. Perfect. And right here, I will make this circle much smaller, just like that. And I'll remove this question mark. I'll just say Command: to hide it, or you can hide it from this layers panel as well. And I'll make this a red colored circle. I can give this a linear gradient, so I'll give it a linear gradient, no problems. And I will something like that. And now what I'll do is I'll create 3 to 4 more circles. Not circles, these should be ovals. And I will double click on this artboard and say Command D to duplicate it. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate these circles a little bit more, and I'll make them slightly smaller. So I'll just scale them down while holding Shift, and I'll just scale all of these down a little bit, and I'll rotate them as well. And you can create more artboards to make it a longer animation, but I'm just going to leave it like that. And what I'm going to do is prototype this button. I'll select this button right here, bring the arrow to this artboard and say tap, auto animate, snap. Let's leave it to say wind up, and 0.4 second duration. And double click on this entire artboard and bring the arrow right here. So with time, it'll auto animate, and it'll auto animate with an ease in out, ease in function. And the duration can be longer, it can be 0.6 seconds. And from this last artboard, it can come back to this artboard as well. Time transition, or you can just say auto animate, that's fine. And ease in out 0.4 seconds. And let's try this out. If I click on this button, let's see what happens. See, it becomes much smaller and it becomes large again. So it kind of rotates a little bit like an atom, and you can make the animation last much longer if you create more artboards like I've done in my original project. Last button looks something like this, and it has a background and a solid shape, and it kind of transitions like this. Looks quite cool. It looks like a modern animation, and the animation kind of flows like this. So if you carefully see, you'll be able to see these kind of waves coming from the back. It almost looks like a motion blur, like you can do in After Effects, but we've kind of replicated right here in Adobe XD. Isn't that cool? And to do this, it's very simple. I'll duplicate the artboard, select this artboard and duplicate it right here, put it right here. And for this last one, what I'm going to do is I will just copy this image. This image, by the way, is from unsplash.com. I will give the link down in the description if you want to download this image. It's pretty cool. And let's just make this, okay, let's place it here first in the original artboard, and like that, and make it much bigger. Perfect. Good thing about Adobe XD is that it resizes the images automatically. And here we want a rectangle for the borders of the button, and remove the fill and give the border a white, and 20 pixels for the border. That is perfect. And I will say click again. Let's make this a white, and let's make this much smaller as well. Perfect. That looks perfect here. Now what I'm going to do is I will create a custom shape right here. So I will use the pen tool, and I'll make sure that this shape is like this across the so here what I'll do is I'll just bring all these anchor points towards the inside of the circle so that it's no more visible. Make sure you have enough room to edit these anchor points later on, so you can see they're not overlapping each other. Perfect. And I'll do something like this right here as well. Let me just fast forward this so you don't have to see the entire process. Okay, perfect. So this here, the borders are ready. The only thing that has to be done is the inside fill. So I will create a basic rectangle. The first rectangle will be of this orange, bright orange color of the background, and I'll place it behind the button and the click text. The other one, I'll just duplicate this, and I'll just make sure the height is more here. The other one will be this light pink, which is in the background, and it'll be behind the orange as well. And I'll just duplicate this orange again, and I'll make this one much smaller, and make sure that this color is this this real fancy blue that we have. I don't know what this blue is. It's just a simple blue, plain blue. And we have now 3 backgrounds, and we will just decrease the size of this blue background. We bring it to the bottom so you can't see it. The orange one will be slightly above the blue, so it won't be gone all the way down. And the pink one will be slightly towards the center. And the orange and the pink, we will reduce the opacity to 0 so you can't really see anything. And we have the button ready here. I'll just copy this entire block, Command C or Control C, and I will place it in our final artboard right here. Perfect. And for the animation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double select or double click on the parts that we created, the borders that we created. Double click, and I will make sure just hold one anchor point and pull it away just like this, so it looks like kind of like a funky arrow right here. And we'll do the same with this border. I'll just bring it right here. Perfect. This looks pretty perfect right here. And I will select these backgrounds which are 0% opacity, and I will just increase the opacity to 100%, and I will expand these to the top so that they are covering the entire button. And make sure to also expand the blue at the bottom. You can't really see it, so go to the layers panel right here, and as you can see, this is one of the rectangles here, rectangle 25, and I'll just expand this blue to go to the top, and that's about it. And if I want to try this out, let's go to prototype mode, and if I click on this click button, it should take me to this artboard. Perfect. And ease in out, that is pretty much perfect. 0.6 seconds or maybe 0.5, that's perfect. Auto animate is on, and there you go. And it should come back, it should auto animate back, 0-second delay, time trigger, and that's about it. So let's try this prototype out now. And if I click here, perfect. That is pretty perfect. So that was the entire experiment. Now for the CSS part, since I had promised you guys I would make like tell you the code for this. So I have Safari open here, and I've already written down the code for some of these buttons, and I have many more in the collection as well. So if you hover over this button, see how we have the same animation that we did right now with the prototype. It's pretty cool, isn't it? And I have other selection of buttons here, and these are available free of cost. You can just pick up the code from right here. It's HTML and SCSS, or you can just pick up the CSS code plain from right here. And I also have this click kind of animation, which was the exclamation animation. This is where I got inspired. These are all my designs, penned by Puneet Chawla, as you can see. And I used to do a lot of web design back in the day, so these are kind of little experiments that I did. So the code is ready and set to go. I hope you guys really liked that video. If you did, it would mean a lot to me if you go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and also hit that bell icon so that you get my videos in your notifications and you can see them real quick. And I'll keep making videos every Monday and every Thursday. See you. Peace.